Are there any other questions? We still have 10 minutes in the hall. And you're all sitting here. What would you like to talk? Is that Jeff? Jeff Dowd from the ZOA, who I just met last week in person. Yes?
Question for Professor Ahrens. When I'm back in the States, I spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill. The only time in my experience on Capitol Hill where I got any pushback and had to duck for cover was in 1999-2000 with the sale of the Falcon and the Harpies to China. Do you believe that we should have sold, in light of your comments about the lack of pressure on Israel to cancel the Lviv, do you think that we should have sold those Harpies and those Falcons to China as an expression of our sovereignty? Or do you think we should not? And if so, why not?
Refer to the Falcon, which was the big project that involved a great deal of money and a contract which Israel had committed itself to and signed when the Chinese president, Jiang Zemin, visited Israel. He was told that within a few months the airplane would be delivered, and on his return to China he found out that the contract had been cancelled. Now, there was pressure from the United States. It was not warranted because when the contract for the delivery of the aircraft was signed, the United States was made fully aware of it. There had never been any indication on the part of the U.S. government that they objected to the contract or that they insisted on its cancellation. From the engineering point of view, the aircraft did not represent any kind of danger to American interests or the American armed forces. In case of a conflict with China, the subject was totally mishandled by the man who at the time was the Prime Minister of Israel and Defense Minister Ehud Barak. It could have been settled in a much more judicious and civil manner without, for quite a number of years, throwing a monkey wrench into the relationship between Israel and China. And China, as you know, is not a third world nation. So it was a mistake all around.
Aaron?
Aaron, we heard a lot about
Louder, a little louder.
We heard a lot about the 1980s, and that was all for the good because it educates us about today. But have there been attempts to, as Caroline said while walking out, attempts to resurrect the Lviv over the last 20, 30 years?
Well, I would say, I'll let Professor Ahrens answer, but I would like to say one of the proposals for the title of this conference was, Let's Bring Back the Lviv.
Well, from an engineering point of view, I don't think it would make sense to resurrect the Lviv as it was then. Whether Israel at this stage should initiate the development of a manned fighter aircraft is a very serious and complex question, because we have reached the end, or are reaching the end, of manned fighter aircraft. It might be a sensible thing to do if it were done in cooperation with another country. I think that this is in the realm of possibility if we talk, for example, of India, but it's something that needs to be pursued. You need to take initiative, and unfortunately, that kind of initiative in recent years has not been forthcoming, not from the Israeli government and not from Israel Aircraft Industries.
Give us your name.
Harry Weiss.
Yes, Harry.
Mr. Ahrens, I remember, I'd like you to comment on conspiracy theories that possibly Shimon Peres or other people in the government were behind the Rabin assassination. I wonder if you could address why no one was able to persuade Shimon Peres to get behind the Rabin and persuade him to be supportive, because I remember reading that at an earlier time he was very supportive of these things.
On your first question, I have no faith at all in these conspiracy theories, so just forget about them. That's my opinion. As Peres' attitude on the Lviv program, first of all, he was under great pressure from Yitzhak Rabin, who was the defense minister, who said to him, you must stand by me, you must get the entire labor delegation in the government to stand by me this is something that you owe me, and I think that was one of the pressures that brought Paris into line. Secondly, Paris's participation in the debate on the levy, his contribution to call it such, was totally asinine. What he said in the government debate was the levy is not a sufficiently advanced aircraft. What we need to do is cancel it and immediately start a new aircraft program, which he then called in 1987 levy of the year 2000. So that was totally senseless, and how he ever came to the conclusion, I really don't know.
Sir? Yeah, no? Next? Question. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Nadine Barry.
Yes, Nadine.
When are we going to decide to stop being a colony of the United States?
I don't know. I hope soon. Maybe tomorrow. If we take charge of this, if we get the bit in our teeth and we use this information that we have in our heads and in our hearts and in our kishkis, then we can go forward and demand our sovereignty. That's all. We won't have to be a colony. I don't know what the best way is. I would say use every way you can possibly think of. And we will try to give some context, some context in our website that will help you formulate these things, give you facts and so forth. Be careful. Ooh, okay. Yes. I know that person. Who is that? Hi.
What's the advantage of fighter jets these days over swarms of drones?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
What is the advantage of a fighter jet today
Oh.
over a large swarm of drones?
Take the time to get into a technical discussion as to the advantage of manned fighters as opposed to unmanned aircraft. As I'm sure you've seen, unmanned aircraft are beginning to take on an increasingly larger role when it comes to missions that in the past were carried out by manned aircraft. There's still room for manned aircraft. You can see that in the Israeli Air Force today, in the American Air Force today. So I guess there's still a certain time span, of maybe the next 10 to 15 years, where for certain missions, manned aircraft will do the job better than unmanned aircraft.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
What's your name?
July Thunder.
Yes.
And Extra Weinberger has been mentioned several times.
Right.
I'd like to ask everybody, what can we do to help get Jonathan for our home?
Yes. This is a topic that my husband wrote about the day that Jonathan was arrested. And we have a whole section in our website that deals with Jonathan Pollard. I don't know how we can help him get home, but I think we need to know more of the story and develop all the techniques we know in terms of advertising, in terms of public arousal of peoples to demand that he be released. And thank you for the question. It's a very strong, important thing in our hearts.